This is the Meaning Business Podcast, your go-to source for business tips, advice, growth, and exit strategies, hosted by Bruce Kudry and Peter Spinder. Each episode, we bring you real stories, expert insights, and practical advice to help you succeed in today's market. Let's dive in.
Okay, so welcome to Meaning Business, the podcast for people looking to buy, sell, or grow their business. I've got today Peter Spinder.
Hello, everyone, as usual.
And
Hi,
myself.
Bruce.
And we've got a very special guest today, Ian Salter. Welcome, Ian.
Hey, Ian, welcome.
Thank you.
So one of the things we believe of, we've learned in business is that everyone's in sales. And that's why I got Ian along today, one of the great salesmen that I've met in my life, to have a chat. He doesn't know what we're going to talk about, really, do you? Unscripted and unplanned, which is the best.
And he's
way
not
to go.
always this quiet.
Oh, give him time. Give him time.
Exactly. He's been told no drumming.
So, and just on that, if I could introduce Ian, Ian has one of the most amazing backstories. Grew up in Christchurch in New Zealand, and I imagine it was a cold place, and he was this red-headed kid and amongst Maoris and playing rugby and running around the streets at night when dogs were off leads, and the world was a different place. But got into an amazing situation where he correct me if I get this wrong. Ian has been Roy Orbison, ABBA, Cliff Richard. Have I forgotten someone?
Was it James Morrison that you said before? James Morrison was...
Played with James Morrison
No.
in the same show.
Oh, yeah, the same sort of show, yeah.
So it's been in music, played around Australia and New Zealand in music, recorded albums.
Hence why we're saying don't drum.
Yeah, that's right. Is a drummer, but don't categorise him with all other drummers. He's not that brain dead. And fell through a series of amazing events in his life, being a business broker. And I really think Ian's personal story is just incredible. You couldn't write it. So, but Ian has got some great stories about selling, and that's why I thought it'd be good to have a chat to Ian today, because all of us in business are in sales.
And it's interesting that you say that, because one of our most viewed episodes, listened to episodes, is actually about sales. It's the one with our other guest, Keith Bird, talking about selling. So we thought, okay, well, let's get Ian on. Let's continue that discussion around, well, what is sales? His interpretation. This is from someone with so much experience in the field. And you mentioned a couple of interesting points, before the recording. So we'll talk about that as well, and love to hear your journey and love to hear your take on what is sales and why is it so important for us to know more about this topic.
Yeah.
Right.
But before we get to that, just for context, how long have you been selling businesses for?
So we're coming into the new year now. So this coming September, I'll be with Benchmark 20 years.
20 years
And
next
it's-
September.
You and I were texting the other day, and I just went, it was a blur. And I actually sent you a copy of the welcome letter.
Yeah.
And I was cleaning out, and I found Bruce's welcome letter from
Yes.
2005.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. And I hope nothing's changed in my approach since then. But so 20 years next year, sold hundreds of businesses in that time, all sorts of things, met all sorts of people all around Australia. Ian's got some amazing stories, which we won't need to get into today.
That's another episode of itself.
First sale was a Cooperoo Marine business. Rainy night,
Stormy night.
running around, getting contracts signed.
No sat nav, just Rifidex, without reading glasses, didn't know my way around Brisbane. But one thing in here, I am not going back to the Gold Coast without a signed contract.
Yeah, good on you.
It was a good deal, and the guy that bought it was buying it because he'd worked with his dad, and he really wanted to get out of that with his
You
dad.
had a split.
Yeah. So every sale's got a story, and Ian's got hundreds of them. And so that's why I thought it'd be great to, you've got a wealth of knowledge. Not only has Ian sold a lot of businesses for people, but helped and mentored other brokers and been through times when, in the many years that you've been working, you specialised in franchises for a while, got into the M&A types of transactions, now kind of found your groove in the manufacturing and wholesale type areas, which you can relate to because of the businesses you've owned in the past. So, but I thought we'd talk about sales, and I thought the starting point is when Ian was in. So, do you want to tell us about when you were a young guy, the sort of roles you got to, and get to the Harry J. Friedman and the bike shops? Was it the
sure.
bike shops
So-
where that came around?
Yeah, so look, I started off in the high school I was in, was not supported by my family at all, come from pretty poor family. There was 6 of us kids. There was none of this running us to school and back or helping homework. So really, I'd have to look over someone's shoulders to get the answers. I was not academic. I was on all the sporting teams and playing lots of sport. And over in New Zealand, you can leave school at the age of 15, and that was my plan. I thought, I'm going to get out of that. But prior to leaving school at 15, I was running a milk round at 2 a.m. in the morning and with a guy called Robin Moffat. And when he looked at me, he said, "You're pretty scrawny." And I said, "Well, what do I have to do to get a job?" And he said, "You've got to lift that one crate of glass 1 pint onto the truck." And I said, "How about I lift 2?" So I lifted 2. And so I got the job and I ran with him for 3 years. And I said to him, "Don't pay me, just write it down in a notebook." Because in 3 years' time, I knew I was going to be 15 and I can drive in New Zealand as well. So I got my first car that way. So I entered by running. But then I said to the headmaster, "I'm 15, I want to leave school." He said, "I'm not signing papers." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "You've got to go somewhere and do something." I was like, "Oh man, what am I going to do? I'm not going to university." So I remembered that on the Fridays we would have to go and do work experience. And I don't know if you guys ever did that. So I was actually doing motor mechanics and helping these brothers doing oil and greases and stuff. And I did that for about a year. So I walked around to them and saw Bill and Laurie Garlick, their name was. And I said to Bill, "G'day, Bill." He said, "What are you doing here? It's not Friday." And I go, "No, but I just want to know, were you guys ever thinking of getting an apprentice?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Would that be me?" And they went, "Yes." And I said, "Have you got any documents?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Could I grab them?" So he gave them to me. I took them home. Mum signed them. I was living with my mum at the time, and dropped them into the headmaster. Said, "There you go." He said, "All right, all the best." Signed them, and I was out. So I did the motor mechanics thing. But oh man, in Christchurch, winter, lying on a cold, frozen floor, and you slip off a spanner with numb fingers, and then all the grease, and I knew it wasn't for me. I love the motor cars, don't get me wrong, and I can fix things with my hands. But once I got through that, I was out. And so then I, looking in the paper, and the first job I got was in sales, and it was selling Collier's encyclopedia. Door to door. And I nailed the interview, of course. And so they whipped me up, and can't do it in Christchurch. They don't want you there. They take you to another city. So dropped me in Auckland. I've never travelled out of Christchurch. Dropped me into Auckland. I'm in a motel with other salespeople. So I have to help with the lion's share of cleaning and all that. And then
How old were you?
about 18.
Okay.
So I'd finished the apprenticeship. So anyway, they put you in a van and they take you to a suburb, and I know nowhere where I am. So they pin drop me here, and they said, "We'll pick you up here like in whatever time it is." Yep. And it's winter and it's cold, right? So what's my motivation? Get inside the door and get warm. Knock. Hey, little man. And I'll be signing encyclopedias. Well, I got out of encyclopedias and went to another door knocking one with the same system, took me to another city, and that was selling an American accident policy.
Insurance.
Insurance policy called the HIP policy. And it was in a beautiful leather binder that's slung on here with a triplicate or duplicate pad. And I still remember the ending of that, which is the real American system was, "So, Mr. Kudre, your wife will be the beneficiary of your policy," yes, "and of course you'd be the beneficiary of your wife." Boom, 2 policies. Done. And we had to do the macabre, they called it the macabre nod, and while I'm sighing and talking, and so I did those 2 cold call. I can't even remember what the commissions were on that, but that really cut your teeth in how many strikes and how many knockouts you get getting in the door.
Yeah.
You know, one of my first jobs was doing the exact same thing, door-to-door mobile phone plan sales. Whoa. And I remember getting chased out of business, and it was business to business, with broomsticks. And,
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a lot of fun. And, got back into the office, and every afternoon, ring the bell when you reached, certain sales. It was commission only.
Yeah.
But it certainly teaches you some
That
life
is real
lessons, that's
selling.
for sure.
Getting dropped in a suburb.
Yeah, and that's what they did with
Come
us
back
as well.
and get you later.
Yeah.
The
That's
guy
real
that owned this firm or this business, he'd put us in his BMW. He had a PlayStation that you could play in the back seat and drop us randomly into a suburb, literally like that, and said, "Okay, we'll pick you up at 3 o'clock and go for it and sell."
Yeah. That was it.
What a way
but
to
I
do
got
it.
jack of the what was going on in the motel with the other guys. Stinky, smelly, food was crap, and I just chucked it in. But that was the end. When you chuck it in, they're finished with me, and I'm stuck in Auckland. So I just thumb up and I hitchhike all the way back to Christchurch.
But that's across the border.
Yeah.
Swam. It was into sports.
I got on the ferry.
On the ferry, yeah, to Picton.
Yeah, had a few bob in my pocket, but probably just to get on the ferry.
Yeah.
And I remember one day just before I got to the ferry, it was pouring down with the rain, and I went up some country driveway, and I was stuck under their porchway just to get out of the rain. They came out and sent me packing.
No sympathy.
Those bloody Kiwis are at the front of the So, yeah, so that was a really good introduction to sales, but I actually don't remember being trained in selling there. I remember the finish of that HIP policy, but I don't remember any official training. I remember one guy in the room, we all had to stand up and say who we were and where we were from, and I stood up and said, Ian Solder from Christchurch. I said, I'm 18 and currently don't have a job. He goes, oh, you're a bum, are you? And I go, no. And he goes, I said, well, how about a challenge? I was really cocky. I said, how about a challenge? He said, what's the challenge? And he had this book on his bookshelf, and I think you've got a copy of it. It's got the head with the embossment coming out of it. It's only about that big. I can't remember the title of it. And I said, what do I have to do to get that? He said, get 95% out of your learning. And I said, how about 97? So anyway, I got it. Wow. I got the book. And actually, I'd learnt the scripting of what it was, the introduction and the finish. I led that in the first week, and I was actually helping other guys get through. But it was the 2 weeks training before we hit the road. So
Where's the book now?
I don't know, but you've got a copy. I've seen it in your bookshelf.
Have a look.
Yeah.
So through all that, you end up in selling bikes.
I ended up, so out of there, I went into communications. There was a company called Ben Rumble Communications, and I was a special projects manager. And what that really meant was they were losing phones. And all those phones would customer come in, put it on the bench, and I'd watch, and then somebody would sign a document, and then that would go in some tub, the Nokia tub or the Motorola tub. And I had to track and work out where it went, what day it went, how it was receipted back to the customer, when would it come back, what's the process. And so actually I wrote a whole process manual on the customer experience of delivering a phone in for repair, because they were getting repaired more than they are these days, you know. That was my project on that, and I left that, and then I worked for Craig Adair. Now Craig Adair was a medalist in cycling.
Olympic medalist.
Olympic or Commonwealth.
Okay.
I can't remember, but huge thighs, and you know, and a good friend of his, Mike Hughes, which I kick around with. He was
the master.
He's the master, and I won't say why he's called master, but he was a triathlete. He did the Boston Marathon running, cycling, and all that stuff in those days. You know, really strong Southlanders, and. Craig had this shop in Riccarton in Christchurch, which is the flagship store, and he came up with this idea of Midnight Madness. Oh, it's Craig Adair here, Midnight Madness, buy one bike, get one free. It was all, you know, he was the hypo, you know, on the radio all the time, and then he opened 1, 2, 3, 4, and he opened around the country. And then I remember one night I got a phone call, Salty, I need you in Auckland, or Wellington, I think it was. Bikes are going missing. And so I flew in one night, and the big factory, I didn't realise how big his factory was, and he was bringing over the bikes, and this is where they get assembled. It was a big assembly line. And I was the new boy from head office coming in to observe, so I went up in the office and you could look down, and first thing I noticed was the roller doors were up all day, and then the bell would go off, and I'd notice a couple of the guys going out there, and they just grab a couple of bikes and they go out the door, and so I go down and ask where they went, and they said, oh, they've gone down to get their lunch. All right, I see them walk in the door, no bikes. So I didn't say anything, and I waited to that night, and we closed everything off, and then I went walking around looking for them, and I opened up the waste thing and lifted up the cardboard, and there's the bikes lying down. So I got the bikes in, and then the next day, protocol, doors down while we're manufacturing, and then I went and checked the punch clock card because they had punch tickets.
Yeah.
And I noticed one guy looked different in the same spot. So I walked over with a punch card and said, is that you? And he goes, no, that's my brother. And I go, they were actually sharing the week. And under the one
guy working, two people getting paid.
Yeah.
It used to happen at the steelworks.
Yeah. And, oh my God. And so I finally found out what was going on, and that was all sorted. With the downfall of his chain was he brought in an investor, a banker guy, and just turned to custard after that.
Yeah, right.
But it was really good, and it was there where that leads me into Harry J. Friedman. So because he had multiple stores and I was actually ended up being the manager of the flagship store, Craig put me through the Harry J. Friedman training system, 7 Steps Successful Selling, and also multi-store supervision selling, which he paid for. And I met Harry J. In person.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
American guy.
American guy, really small guy, but really vibrant. And he signed my book and yeah, it was great.
So tell us what a sackable offence was with Harry J. Friedman.
If I come up to you, before we go there, his training was all retail sales training. But if I come up to you and said, hey, can I help you? You're gone.
Yeah, right.
So just before we go on,
Yeah.
just for those listeners and watchers that don't know this individual, tell us who was this person, Harry J. Friedman?
He's a sales trainer.
Yeah.
You can Google him. He's a sales trainer. He lives in North America, owns a chain of big supermarket stores over there, where he did his measuring of his system.
Okay, so he's just any sales trainer that's come up with a methodology. He's an entrepreneur, owns the stores.
Yeah.
He's really worked out from the coalface.
For retail sales.
Yeah, for retail
and
sales.
management of multiple stores.
And his training program is, I think now right around the world. We have it here in Australia. So there's like a division of Australia doing his system.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so the sackable offence was, can I help you?
Can I help you?
Can I help you? Yes.
Which is what everybody asks. Everyone asks.
Yeah. So you're working there, was it the 80s or the 90s?
Mid-80s.
Mid-80s. Mid-80s, people come in.
Oh, no, mid-90s, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
people come in to buy a bike.
Yeah.
So tell us how you used to sell a bike.
Yeah, so after the training, the thing is you'd notice, wow, that's a flash shirt you got there, Peter. Can I ask where you got that? Or if I'd ask you your name first, say,
Because this is instead of saying, can I help you?
Yeah. But before we did that, we had a thing called the 180-degree pass-by. And it was part of the process that we don't just come to you first. Why? Because every person that comes into a store has a barrier up against a salesperson. They've got the fence up. We've got to get the fence down. And so I would be doing something and I'd look you in the eye and go, I'll be just with you in a minute, because acknowledgement's really good, right? Not being ignored. But our eyes have locked in, and he believes that you've now got my image in your subconscious. So we've met before, just briefly. So, and then I'll come over and go, wow, what a flash shirt. I really love that colour on you. My name's Ian. What's your name?
Peter.
Peter. Where did you get that from, Peter?
Oh, honestly, don't know. I've had it for a few years.
Fantastic.
So thank you. I'm glad you like it. Not everyone likes the flowers.
Yeah, well, I love, you can see
I can tell,
I
yeah.
wear the same sort of shirt. So I love those sort of shirts.
Yeah.
And then what we're doing now, I'm just having banter conversation with you, and I'm hopefully lowering that barrier that I'm a human, not a salesperson in this case. And then when I'm ready, the transfer was, oh, listen to me babbling on about shirts. By the way, what brings you into our store today?
Look, I've got this remarkable 2, and actually the end of the pencil has died down, so I need some nibs. Can you help me with that?
With the nibs?
Yeah, with the nibs of the end of the remarkable 2.
Yeah, we're a bike shop.
Okay, what? I've got it. Well, this is funny.
We've taken the role play to another shop.
I'm thinking.
To another.
Okay, we'll rewind then.
But in the bike shop, they had the 180 walk by, be with you in a minute.
Yeah.
Right? This is what you learnt, right?
Yeah.
And then you would banter.
Yeah.
Then you would move on from the banter with the
wrong shop.
listen to me rabbiting on, but the by the way.
Yeah.
And this is why I think that's, this is not, we're not going to teach people how to sell in this podcast, but these little ideas are really super valuable.
You know what? You can help me. I'm thinking at the moment, Ian. I'm thinking I've got a bike, but I'm thinking I think I need to upgrade it. I'd love something else. I'd love something more modern, something a bit newer. I mean, I've had this bike for quite a while. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just looking
mountain bike or road bike?
It's a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What time of the day do you ride?
All the time.
Yeah.
Any time of the day. That's the problem. I think I've beaten around the bush, and I'm not good with repairs. I'm not good with maintenance. I don't look after it well.
Yeah.
And I need.
We definitely can help you with a service, and what full service. You can either go both ways, bring it in, we'll service it, and have a look at it, upgrade it for you, or if you want to upgrade it to a new bike.
Yep.
Let me ask you this: do you ride with a group of people? Are you in a club?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah.
Okay. And do they wear all the lycra gear and have the bananas hanging out the back and wear the clip-on shoes?
Some of them do. Some of us don't. I don't.
Do you?
No.
How
not a
serious
fan.
are you about your mountain biking?
I'm serious enough, but I'm also very conscious of how much money I spend on it, to be honest with you, because I'm not a pro or anything like that. So I just need something that's good enough for the weekend, Warriors type riding.
We'll step over here and let's get this one. So I'm getting a carbon fiber 24 speed.
Top of the range.
Yeah, probably top of the range. I will never start from the bottom because I'm now feeling out your budget.
Yeah.
So I pick it up with 2 fingers and pop it over, but I don't put it there. I give it to you to hold on to. So I'm
Putting it in your hand.
putting it in your hands, right? And from there, you're going to go, how does this look for you? And I'll talk about the features and benefits of that bike and what it can do and what it can't do. And while I'm doing that, you're listening, but you're thinking, how much is it costing?
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely.
And one thing that we did in Craig Adair's, just to go back, once I've engaged with you, I am not leaving you. Now, I have to adjust some seats in there on there. So we come up with an idea of wearing the bum bag. And the bum bag had
got
every
tools.
tools because we learned.
You don't want to go away.
We walked away and you were
Gone.
Right, yeah, gone. So we stayed engaged. I'm giving you the bike. You're touching it. I don't want it. So now you're going, it's nice. And then you go, oh, it's just a little bit more. Okay, so 2 fingers back like that, and I'll just bring it down 500, and I'll go to this one. This one's just down a couple of gears, and you go, great. And then here we go. In comes the. Would you like?
I love this, Ian, but how much is it?
This one's 1,500. Is that within your budget?
Not really what I was thinking about, but oh man, I really do like this bike.
Go and take it for a ride.
Yeah? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's right down the road. Off you go. Come back. What do you think?
I want this bike. How can we make it work?
Great.
Yeah. And then you move into the upsell.
So now you're paying $1,500 for this, right? So do you guys stop for coffee and that on your rides in the morning? Or?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So security is going to be important, right?
Absolutely.
So let's look at getting a new lock for that bike.
Yep.
Straight away.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What about your lid? You got a good helmet?
I haven't swapped it out in a couple of years.
It's probably outdated now.
Yeah.
Come and have a look at the range that we've got here.
Yep.
That's going to suit the color of that bike and, really make it look good. And then you said you ride anytime. So do you ride at night?
I do.
Yeah. So have you got some lighting?
Yeah, look, I'm quite happy with my lights.
Yeah. Great. And going up hills and that, do you want a bit more energy to get that bike up the hills?
Absolutely.
Well,
Anything.
getting the upstroke, working on that bike is having those click-on steady shoes.
Yep.
When they click in, you're not just getting the downstroke, you're getting the upstroke as well. That's going to be important to get you up those hills without just firing down the downstroke all the time. Do you want to try? What size are you?
9.5.
Yeah. Grab a seat or just grab.
All right, let's give it a go.
Yeah. So you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
Adding and our whole thing on that was show till the customer says no. Because I don't know how. Yeah, said you're going to spend 1,500. Now I'm putting on about 300 or 400.
Exactly.
Now as soon as you go, and by the way, I'm putting these on the counter, so I'm sumptive closing you.
Yep.
Bike's now leaning on the counter. We're now into shoes, locks, lights. I'll get you into Lycra soon. And and like, so we just keep adding.
Well, he's already wearing a flower shirt bike.
I'll just keep telling you, keep adding until you go, oh, how much is this all costing? Now, what we did back then, we had a little, all the guys had polos on with a pocket, and we had a ready reckoner in there.
Yeah.
I go, do you drink, obviously you drink coffee.
Yep.
So for the cost of this stuff here, it's less than a cup of coffee a week. We do our own finance. So we could do a finance on the sex accessories for $5 a week.
What's the interest that I've got to pay back?
$1 a month.
Oh, dumb.
It's a no-brainer.
What's interesting though, as you're talking, is that this bike situation, that exact thing actually happened to me when I bought my last mountain bike.
Yeah.
And I did go into 99 Bikes, and I'm happy to say, because they have fantastic service.
Yeah.
I went in there, and I'm going to be very transparent here, with only one goal. That was to try the bike that I wanted to buy, and then I'll hop online and I'll buy it online cheaper. I ended up walking out with the bike and the new helmet.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was so good. And the sales guy did the exact same thing that you're talking about.
So I reckon they might have Harry J. Friedman system in there in 99 Bikes.
Because
It's
he
company, right?
measured me up and did all the thing and did exactly what you're talking about.
Tell you who else has got that training system is Michael Hill Jeweler.
Right.
So they did the same. And then tell me this, when they finished, did they go, hey, Peter, if you're ever near my store again, come in and tell us how good your bike is?
Yes. Yeah.
That's Friedman, that's Friedman training.
So the guy that I bought from, and so since that point in time, I reckon we've spent at least 10 grand with
other bikes,
99 bikes, and we just bought. So my boys are getting new bikes for their birthday, and my daughter as well. Yeah, that's almost $6,000 worth of bikes back from 99 bikes. We don't go anywhere else.
So let's just unpack that for a second.
Yeah.
I've just told you about the Harry J. Friedman system that I was involved in years back.
Yeah.
And also I've been involved in with Dulux Australia. And you've just told us experience that's the same thing. And when I said to you, hey Peter, if you're near the store, come in and tell us how good your bike is. That's Friedman training. You've been trained, but look at the money that's gone into that business.
Time.
Yeah.
Time. And that goes back to what we were
Structured selling.
selling initially, that everyone's a salesperson. You know, they're not just the bike mechanics. They're
Yes,
not just,
trained.
you know, they're trained, and you're professionals, and you're building a relationship, you know, to the point where not only have we spent the money, but we're now talking about them on a podcast. We've actually given them a 5-star review I have online, and we're repeat
Yeah.
customers.
So here's the other thing, couple of things. First of all, how deeply ingrained is that training in Ian?
Yeah.
Many years later, we're talking about the 80s. Here we are in 2025, 2024, still part of the way you think and the way you talk. And some of the tactics in, you know, it's not subverting, it's not doing the wrong thing, it's doing the right thing, because that type of, you'd call it professional service, right? When someone sticks with you and they don't walk away and they listen to you and they ask questions, that's great selling. And I know Ian and we respect, and probably you too, Pete, great salespeople.
Absolutely.
I know Ian, there was this girl who used to sell products in Rabina Town Centre, great salesperson. And when you have a great salesperson sell you, whether it's a suit or something else, you just want to go back.
It's enjoyable.
Exactly.
It's an
And it's
enjoyable
professional.
process.
That is professional. So
Yep.
the Harry J. Friedman system that Ian learned has helped him become a professional salesperson, which helps people to get what they want.
And there's another aspect to it, right? They know their product. So 99 bikes, those guys, those girls that you talk to, they know their product. And so someone who's a bike enthusiast, and I'm into mountain biking, it's so great to then have that sort of conversation with someone who knows the product, because then you trust the recommendation. They're not selling it because they're selling.
Yeah.
They're selling it because they're advising, because that's best for you, Bruce.
yeah.
And you know that that's the truth. Well,
you're there.
You know the product. You know.
So there's,
I'll tell you, those retailers out there, if you're listening to this, go and put product training into your staff. Stop trying to cut short and be cheap because it's costing you money.
Big time. So
Exactly right.
the reason I spoke about the remarkable is because that's in my head, because I actually had to go in to JB Hi-Fi and have go and get the nibs, which is what I was after. 2 salespeople that I spoke to had no idea what a remarkable was. Now it's a remarkable piece of technology, but that's the thing, isn't it? They don't understand what they're selling. If you don't know the product, well,
Before we started this, I told you that last year I went to Kmart. I had to buy some toys. I've got so many grandbabies, right? And one of them is into the child of Modron. I think it's Star Wars, right? So I said to the young
Baby
fella,
Yoda.
young fella, hey, where's your Star Wars? He goes, what? I go, Star Wars, you know. I'm Darth Vader's father. He goes, don't know what you're talking about. He made me age like 30 years on the spot. And I looked at my wife and went, what? Anyway, I left because I hate paying for poor performance. Right? I think I've told the shit before. Then I looked for a specific toy shop, not a Kmart. So I found a toy shop and I walked in and the guy's leaning on the bench. I looked straight. I was 2 steps in the door. Hey, mate, you know about Star Wars? Yeah. You know about the child of Modron? Yeah, over there. Great.
yeah. So here's another thing. Some of the things that, the subtleties in the way people talk, by the way, moving people on
Yeah.
is something. And I want to get to another one of Ian's great lessons that he's learned, which is how to resolve issues or get to a close, which would be, do you want to go through it? You know, so you've said this, we've said that. How about we do this?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain how you do that?
Are you talking about a business sale?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah. I've got one at the moment right now that that you know the business, right? And I've brought the buyer to the table 3 times. And I think there was a trust thing the first time. This is psychological, right? I had to figure out why we're not moving forward. Yeah, the offer was all scrappy first time. We cleaned it out. And the third time when I came back to the table, I thought, right, I've got to praise the buyers in front of the sellers. My buyers are South Africans, right? And I said, look, you've been in this industry 40 years and you've done a great job, and it's time for your move on. They're going to be retiring now. And I said, all you want is to get a fair price for what you've built without an arduous contract. Would that be right? And they go, yes. And then I thanked the sellers, and I said, thanks for coming to the table again for the third time and for hanging in here. I know you're excited about owning this business. I said, but what you're looking for is to pay a fair price, but you want the sellers to hold your hand because you don't know what you don't know yet and get through this transition period. Would that be right? And they go, yes. And I go, so I've got a bit of a draft offer here. And we went through the points, and there was just like 2 little pen adjustments to it. And then I turned it around and pushed it in front of the buyer. So if you agree and everything, and you agree, we should sign the offer. And they go, yes. So sign the offer and did a handshake. That was a few weeks ago. And where we're at now is introduce the buyer's new lawyer. And comes the toilet room of special conditions, which went across last Tuesday. And my buyer just went, deal done, I'm out.
Seller or buyer?
Seller, sorry, seller. Sorry, thanks, Bruce. So the seller came back and said, deal's done, I'm out, I'm not proceeding. So then I went back and said, dear seller, I understand that is a lot, right? Before I sent it over, I actually questioned the buyer. I rang him and said, did you meet with your solicitor? Yes, I did. Are you aware what's gone into those conditions? Well, I've had a conversation, no, but are you aware what he's written down? He goes, oh, no, send it across. And I, okay. Because it was like 4 pages, A4 pages added. So I sent it across, threw the hand grenade, it exploded, which I thought it was going to. She just dropped the ball in, we're out. And then I went back and copied her in with her lawyer and said, I understand that you are not going to accept all this, but what would you accept? Could you speak to your lawyer about what you would say yes to? So then she's back to the table and we're back there. And then while that was going on, I went back to the buyer and said, what is it with all this down here? What are you trying to say? He said, I don't know why they're saying no. And I said, well, what is it that you want? He said, I'm just trying to articulate what we'd like to check off in the 2 months of handover. I said, okay, so this is some of the items you want to see done. And I said, okay, what if those processes are not there? He said, that's okay. I said, okay, it just needs a paragraph written above there that the buyers and sellers agree that in the 2-month handover, the list below will try and, deal with and if it's not there, then the buyer knows what processes he'd have to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I said, is that what you're trying to say? He goes, yes. And there was a couple of other points that I've cleaned through, and I said, I'll write it and send it to you, and you tell me if I've got it spot on. Because we've had a bit of a misunderstanding because he's an Indian, right? So lovely guy. And I said, I want to get all the misunderstanding out. So he sent it back and said, agreed, exactly, added a couple of lines, said, perfect. Now I can go back. And so then I said to the seller and the lawyer, all those conditions really compressed down to this is all that he wants. Can you consider that? And I'm just waiting to hear back from there. So it's been a bit of a tennis match still.
It's a lot of what we do. But you've got that technique you've learnt that technique of the buyer's here, the seller's here. How about we do this?
Yep.
You've kind of...
Why don't we do it? Yeah, so I've got the I understand. Yeah, I've got the 3 points. When you say to somebody, hey, Peter, I understand, you're actually extinguishing the argument. You've got to tell them what it is you understand.
Absolutely.
I understand you don't like the lease. What is it about the lease you don't like? I don't like the fact so it got 3 years. Okay, I understand. So why don't we do this? So now I'm doing a proposal. If I was to get you in front of the landlord and they agree to extend it by 5 years, you'd be happy to move forward? And they go, yes. Is that fair enough? So that's the agreement. So I understand.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah. So I understand. So why don't we do this? Is that fair enough? You put those into context of a conversation, it just moves everything forward.
Yeah.
You can do it in writing and verbal.
There's a FBI hostage negotiator or former hostage negotiator that wrote a book on negotiations. Voss. And, Jay, we'll have to put the details below if you're listening or watching. But his technique is very, very similar where, you want to diffuse the situation, put everyone on the same page, clarify, understand, ask questions like, well, how do you see things moving forward? How can we do this and what about this? And clarify and actually bring people on the same page.
Yeah.
Diffusing is really important.
Yeah.
And what you did there in terms of getting the two parties together, that can be so powerful as well. Instead of going back and forth, 50,000 emails, let's have a conversation.
I learned that from Bruce.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
We often observe that when people are apart, they'll say things and build up resentment about each other.
Yes.
You put them together like we are, sitting face to face. and that all goes away, and we'll talk honestly to each other.
Well, you see this on social media. I mean, how many times people are like keyboard warriors, bang, 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 all negative. And you go, okay, well, I bet you any money, if we got those people in the room, would they act like that together?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't, because it just breaks down the barriers.
And often when we have that this impasse situation, we get people together, we just start off by saying, you want to sell, you want to buy, that's why we're here. And
how do we resolve it?
yes, and suddenly we're focusing on, okay, what are we going to do?
And here's a really crucial point in all that. You never speak badly to the buyer about the seller or the seller about the buyer. Never. You say one, that's it.
That's a trap that so many new guys fall into, you know. They'll say to a seller, I think this buyer's a time waster, and yada, yada, yada. You just, it's not helping anybody.
Absolutely.
You diffuse it. I would say, oh, no, I don't see that. I see them as being a person of their word. When they say they do. Yeah. It might take a little bit longer, but they've never shown that to me.
And you know what? The savvy seller or buyer will look at you, or not you, but someone that acts like that and go, I don't want this broker, because they know that that's not professional conduct. You shouldn't.
Correct.
You shouldn't do that.
Exactly. But it is a mindset thing. And it's just like being in business, the mindset is that we're in sales. And that's why I wanted to have Ian on today, because we've only just skimmed across the surface, but some of the stories and some of the amazing things that Ian's gone through. He's got a friend who started a business just by buying old railway sleepers and selling them.
My friend Wayno, what an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He's sort of retired now, but he's into where he started from. He was a white collar worker for a company in New Zealand called Foodstuffs. Now his job was to connect the barcode to the product on, so to be like 3 weeks, all the product, I don't know how much the supermarket holds, 50 product files? Millions. So he had to make sure that every time they go beep, that's the right product. Beep. And that was his job. Back then, early 80s, I think that was, he was on about 80 grand a year, which is pretty good. I was thinking, oh, that's good money. But then he's entrepreneurial, right? So he bought a investment property, and his wife at the time, she's got that personality that, hey wife, we won $1 million. She goes, oh, that's nice. Or, hey wife, we've lost $1 million. Oh, well. So that's her personality. So he'd go, hey, can you put an ad in the paper? I want to get some railway sleepers. So, and he goes, how much money we got in the bank? We've got X. So he got 12 railway sleepers, purchased them, dropped them home. And then he realized that the railway sleeper has 2 dimensions, 400 by 200. So if I stand them on the edge, I only need 6. Can you put an ad in the paper again? And we'll sell another 6. So all day, she'd been taking down the phone calls. So he gets home, have we sold those sleepers? She goes, oh, no, all the names there. And he had this big list. So he serviced them. He goes, how much money we got? Okay. So he rang them all up and said, yes, I can drop them round 666. And he goes down to the rail yards and he buys sleepers, put them on a trailer, made profit.
That's awesome.
So then what he did was he bought an old HQ Holden and then got a big trailer built for it. And he'd run an ad and it just continually ran. Free delivery, railway sleepers starting at $29. So $29 with the scrubby old ends, up to $40 with the chocolate block ends, you know. And for years he did it that way. So in the morning, he'd be muscle lifting deliveries, white collar work, muscle delivering before the sun goes down because of daylight saving over there. And as he grew that up, then he started tendering for railway lines, and then he would tender and buy dead railway lines. Right?
Wow.
And he knew,
Take the sleepers out.
so he knew in New Zealand there's 2 different size rail. There's a 90 pound per foot and a 70 pound per foot. And so he could just look at it and he knew that there was X amount of sleepers, X amount of fish plates, X amount of bolts, X amount of track in how many kilometres, and plus the posts. And they would go down there. He built a thing called Proliner, which fitted on the tracks, which had the gas bottles. They'd gas axe it X amount, come in with a bobcat, shake it up, put it on the back of a truck, shake the pole, and all that's left is the ballast. And he was doing that all over New Zealand, then putting crews on. And then
all from selling some express sleepers.
Made millions, right?
Yeah.
And he's into race horses and harness racing, horses.
Trotting.
Yeah, trotting. And he'll be driving down over the ferry into the South Island, and he noticed that the farmers have just cut the wheat, so there's chaff left. So you go in and say, what are you doing with that? How many days? They said, oh, we're going to turn it under. They said, if you want to take it, you can get it out. So he'd get it harvested out and baled and put it into nurseries on consignment for mulch. And they just paid him when they pay him back, you know,
Yeah. So we've got some great stories there, and I hope people have enjoyed that today. And I think the takeaway, by the way, before we get to that, subconscious, you know, you're talking about subconscious.
Yes.
They say that 7/8 of the brain is subconscious. Only 1/8 of our brain is conscious, you know. So subconscious is a powerful thing. We might talk about that one day. So all those things like I'll be with you in a minute, or by the way, they're little things, but they make a huge difference.
Yeah, try a conversation. Retailers, if you're watching this, try a conversation before you say, "Can I help you?"
Yes.
And before I came to Benchmark, Bruce, just to add, I was in management at Dulux Australia, running the trade centres.
Yes.
And I put that and what got me into that position was I couldn't get a job. So for 2 years on the down on the Gold Coast, I was climbing palm trees. I hated that job, the spiders that live up there, and cutting lawns, until I got this phone call from Naylor Recruitment saying that Dulux Australia wanted me. I said, "Is that paint?" And they go, "Yeah." I said, "I know nothing about paint." And they go, "No, we're looking at your resume, but you've been trained by Harry J. Freeman." I said, "Yes." They said they want an ally because they're rolling it out across Australia.
Wow.
And so that's what got me in there, and I ran the trade centres. And then Dulux started with the Harry J. Friedman system, and that was right up my boat. And naturally, my main store was Store of the Year many times.
So I think it's been great having Ian on today
Absolutely.
and listening to some of those stories. It's just scratching the surface, really. Yeah. But I think the message from us is, or at least me, is to people is, just think about those sort of things. Look at training. It's an investment. And, you said it before. If you don't have to be in retail, any industry. Wayne wasn't the sleeper guy. That's not retail.
No.
But so many things we can learn by just taking on the benefit of some great sales trainers or books that we can get on hold of. So make the effort. It's worth spending the money.
And look, one other thing, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in sales. But it's an open-ended income. It's a commission-based thing. Why would I want to go and work something where somebody controls your income? And, salespeople are not born, they're trained.
Yes.
Just go out and get trained.
So anyone can be good at it.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Probably two things I'll add to that is one, know your product really well. So, sales and business broking, know your product really well. And I personally am not a big fan of the word sales or salesperson. I think the underlying message is to learn to build relationships and really care about your product and really care about what you're trying to do for your customers and look after their needs. And if we do that,
selling's not telling. We say that a lot. Selling's not telling. Selling's asking questions.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you get a great salesperson, you love it.
Absolutely. And then you rave about it.
Yeah. Like you. You've spent a fortune in
I have 9 giant bikes and I will continue spending more money there.
You know what? And you thought you were going to buy online and save money.
That's right.
But what you invested in is a really good salesperson that's giving you your needs and wants because they asked you questions and peeled you open like an onion professionally.
Correct.
And reaped the rewards for their. So
And
pat on the back for that salesperson.
And I'll add one more thing to that sale. They sold me the right bike because I have loved that bike and it has suited me absolutely to the T. And that's why my next bike, which I'm going to buy, I go back to them because they measured me up. They listened to my needs, tick, 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 and said, that's the bike that you need. Yeah. Great.
There's a free ad for 99 bucks.
Coffee.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Bruce.
We'll look
Thanks,
for the
everyone.
shop from 99 bikes next week. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.